And then let's come to the mat. And I get comfortable on the pillow. I like sitting down on it and then slowly rolling down until my knees touch the mat. If your knees don't touch the mat, it's all good. You're just trying to sit down comfortably. I like having my feet staggered. If that doesn't work for you, you can always cross them on top of each other. So just do what works for you here. And then just close your eyes. Let your hands come to your knees, gently bending your elbows. Have your palms face down for that extra grounding. Relaxing your shoulders. Gently leaning back with your upper body, aligning your head over your heart over your pelvis. And then just start taking those long inhales, maybe 5-count inhales and 5-count exhales. Arriving on your mat, arriving for your practice, arriving in your body. See if you can soften your face a little bit. Maybe lifting up the corners of your mouth just a bit. I'll take a couple of breaths here. Set a good, solid foundation for our practice. And then slowly, with your eyes closed, bring your hands to heart center. Let your thumbs rest on your sternum, your heart space, gently pushing your palms together. And then drop your head down towards your hands, feeling that lengthening in the back of your neck, letting the chin move towards your chest. And then gently lift your head back up. Open your eyes and let your hands come down to your sides. Fingertips are on the mat and you're walking your hands out as wide as you can. You're almost feeling a little bit of a stretch in your upper arms and your shoulders. And then with your inhale, raise your arms over your head, going nice and slow. Bring your fingertips together over your head. And with your exhale, go down nice and slow. You're trying to really slow down the movement. Inhale back up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. One more time. Inhale up. Exhale down. And then remove the pillow, put it out to the side, your pillow, blanket, or whatever you were using. And let's make your way into tabletop. Bringing your wrists underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. Setting this solid foundation here. Tops of the feet are pushing into the ground. And then see if you can make sure the elbow creases are facing forward. Gaze goes straight down to the mat. Belly is gently moving inwards. And then let's start moving into our spinal flexion. So with your next inhale, let your belly drop down, let your gaze go up, coming into cow. With your exhale, pull your navel in, bringing your head in between your arms, coming into cat. Inhale back to cow. We're going really slow and we're purposely lengthening the movement, slowing down the breath. Exhale, pull your navel in. Inhale, drop the belly. Gaze goes up. Exhale, pull the navel in. Coming into cat. And then keep moving here. You can speed it up. You can slow it down even more. You can close your eyes and make this completely intuitive. Just use the time to check in with your body here. And coming back to center, I'm going to move into a nice little wrist exercise. So keeping those hands below your wrists, keep your left hand as your standing hand, so it's the one that's pushing into the ground more. And then turn your right fingers first to the outside and then all the way to the back clockwise until your fingers are pointing towards your right knee. I always like imagining there is an axis running right between the two wrists. So the right one is below the axis, the left one is above the axis. And this might be pretty intense for some of us, so go nice and gentle and just start drawing little circles here. You're trying to get them as big as you can, but they can be as small as they are. You're just trying to bring some rotational movement into your wrists. And then slowly start going the other way around. Maybe check in and see if you can make sure the tops of your feet keep pushing down into the mat. So you're not letting your feet lift off. And then coming back to center, turn your right fingers back to the front. Turn your left fingers first out to the left and then all the way towards the back. Pushing into your right hand more this time, and then slowly start out with your circles again. It's a good time to check in with your body, see how the hips are feeling, how the knees and shoulders are feeling, how the head is feeling, where's your mind at? And then start going the other way around. And coming back to center. Turn those left fingers back to the front. Tuck your toes under and slowly walk yourself to the back so you're sitting on your heels, keeping your hands on the ground so you're slightly hunched over. This might be pretty intense for the tops of the feet. So you can stay here with the hands on the mat if that is where you want to be. Or if you want to go deeper, you can bring your hands onto your legs, maybe slide them all the way up into your hip creases. Relaxing your shoulders back and down, straightening and lengthening your upper body. You're trying to lengthen your spine as if the crown is reaching up towards the sky. Take a couple long breaths here. And then make your way back onto all fours, untugging your toes, and just clap it out here, clapping those toes and feet onto the mat. Do it as loud and as fast as you can. And slowing it down again, coming back into stillness. Pushing your left shin and left foot into the mat. Extend your right leg out to the back. Pointing your right toes, making sure your right hip stays level to the ground. And then slowly start turning your right toes out to the right. This will open up your hip to the right, and that's okay. We're going for that hip opening movement. Then use your inhale to turn those toes all the way back down to 6 o'clock. And then bring them back to 3 o'clock. And keep moving with this. You can go nice and slow here. Pushing into both hands equally. And then next time your hip is down, stay here, point those right toes. And then extend your left arm out to the front. Left thumb is pointing up. Make sure you have that core engagement with your navel pulling upwards. That left foot is pushing into the mat. This will give you a little lift in your left hip. And then slowly bring everything back down. Extend your left leg out to the back. Point those left toes. Left hip is pointing down. And then with your inhale, turn your toes to 9 o'clock. Exhale back to 6 o'clock. And then keep moving between the open hip and closed hip. Again, going nice and slow. This is a very mindful movement. If you have any cracking and popping in your hips, that's all good. It's a great way to get into the psoas and the hips. And then next time that hip is pointing down, point those left toes again. Make sure that the right foot is pushing down. And then lift your right arm out to the front. Right thumb is pointing up. Make sure that left shoulder is pushing away from your neck. Engaging your core. And then bring everything back down. Spread your knees mat width apart, keeping those big toes together. Let your hips move back towards your heels. And then spider crawl your hands out to the front, coming into this wide-legged child's pose. Letting your forehead rest on the mat. Letting the belly sink down, letting those hips sink down. It's okay if the hips cannot touch the heels yet. You're just moving towards it. Feeling that big stretch in your outer hips. Breathing into your lower back. Deep inhale. Complete exhale. And then with your next inhale, come back up onto all fours. Keep those hands out far in the front, so your wrists are in front of your shoulders, about 2 to 3 inches. Knees are back underneath your hips. Tuck your toes under. And then with your inhale, lift your knees off the ground, so they're hovering just above the ground. And with your exhale, lift your hips coming into your first downward dog. Maybe start walking it out here, pushing one heel down, bending the other knee, and then pushing the other heel down and bending the other knee. Check in with your hands here, making sure those fingers are spread out like little sunbeams. Every knuckle of every finger is grounding down into the mat. Elbow creases are facing each other. Shoulders are broadening. Keep pushing your belly and chest towards your legs. And then coming into stillness for the last 3 breaths, letting those heels move down towards the ground. Remember, it's not about actually touching the ground. It's just about trying to reach into that direction. It's about feeling what happens in your body while you're moving through those transitions. Inhale, come up high onto your tippy toes. Exhale, bend your knees slightly. And then taking teeny tiny steps, walk your feet all the way to the front. Coming up onto your fingertips towards the end to make it happen. With your inhale, come halfway up, but bring your hands all the way up towards your hip creases. Let those elbows point up. Continue breathing here. Hugging those elbows in, pointing them up towards the sky, almost like little grasshopper legs. Crown of the head is reaching forward. With your next exhale, slowly come back down. Move your feet a little bit further apart so you have them about hip width apart. And then let your body sink down into a forward fold. Let your head become heavy. You can keep your hands on the ground, bending your elbows, helping you to come down deeper. Melting your belly towards your legs, maybe bending your knees here slightly, or maybe even a little bit more to the point where your belly touches your thighs. And then tugging your chin to your chest. With your exhale, slowly come all the way up, keeping your hands on your sides, coming into mountain pose, spreading those hands out to your sides, keeping that nice wide stance, palms are facing forward, shoulders are relaxing down. See if you can close your eyes here. And then imagine you have a block in between your thighs and you're trying to gently squeeze that block to make sure it stays in place. And then gently blink open your eyes. With your inhale, raise your arms over your head. Exhale, swan dive down. Inhale, half lift into your grasshopper arms all the way up, elbows pointing up. Exhale, come back down. Gently step that right foot towards the back of the mat. It's okay if you have to take a couple steps, or you can just slide that back foot out further to the back. So you're trying to find this pretty wide stance. See if you can have a very deep bend in your left knee, about 90 degrees. Keeping your hands on the ground, coming up onto your fingertips. Start pushing that right heel towards the back. Dropping your right hip down towards the mat. Feeling that big stretch in your right hip. And then letting your gaze go up and forward, gently lifting your chest. And then see if you can take some weight off your hands by squeezing your thighs to the midline. So you're squeezing both legs inwards. And see if you can maybe come up a little bit onto your fingertips. Maybe you're almost floating. Maybe your fingers are even lifted. If none of this is happening, that's totally okay. We're just playing here and seeing what we can do right now. And then slowly bring that right knee down. Release your back toes. Keep your right hand on the ground. Bring your left hand to your left hip. Bringing your left thumb into your left hip crease. So you might have to scooch back for a moment and then sink down again. So your left thumb is in your hip crease, and then the four fingers are pretty much grabbing and holding onto your butt. And then sinking down into that left knee again, really finding your edge here, feeling that stretch in your hips. And then with your next inhale, start twisting to the left, pulling that left hip back with your hands. So you're literally pulling it back. Ending up so your chest and belly and face are facing the left side. And then maybe letting your left arm go up towards the sky. If this is too much, you can always bring that left hand back down to your hip. Make sure your right shoulder is pushing down and tugging in, not popping up or out to the front. And then maybe staying here, or if you want to take it even further, you can tuck your back toes under, plank your back leg. Make sure you're keeping that deep bend in your left knee and that right hip is slightly lifting up. It's pretty intense if you're here, so be nice and gentle. And then with your exhale, slowly come back down. Bring both hands back to the mat. Release those back toes. Right knee comes back down. And then with your inhale, start rolling your upper body all the way up. Your hands come up last, coming over your head Turning your palms inwards, holding that big beach ball over your head. Squeezing your thighs to the midline. So you're creating that scissor movement. Creating stability and strength in your hips and your core. Exhale, bring both hands back down. Start straightening your front leg, pushing your hips back, flexing your left foot so your toes are pointing up, you're just on your left heel. Hands stay on the sides, bending your elbows gently. And then even if you normally straighten your left leg here, see if you can maintain a little bend, just for a little bit of a different movement today. And then with your inhale, let your gaze go up. With your exhale, melt down towards the leg. Inhale, look up. Exhale, melt. One more time. Inhale, look up. Exhale, melt. Keep your breath going here, letting yourself melt more and more into that left leg. And then slowly bend that left knee again, keeping your right hand on the ground. Bring that left thumb back into your left hip crease, sinking deep into that knee again. Pushing your hips down, dropping them down. And then with your inhale, let that left arm go up towards the sky. And maybe again, planting and lifting that right knee up high. If your knee is lifted, slowly bring it back down. And then you can stay here, or you can bend your back knee and let that left hand move towards the back, trying to get a hold of that back foot. If you can't reach it, just keep reaching towards it. If you are holding onto it, slowly start pulling it in towards your butt. That left shoulder is pushing to the back. And then releasing whatever you're holding onto, bringing that left hand back to the front, framing that left foot, planking your back leg, and then step your left foot to the back of the mat, coming into your high plank. We want a nice strong plank, so your hips are at the height of your shoulders. We don't want any butts up in the air. We don't want any saggy butts. So check on yourselves here. Make sure those heels are over your toes. You're gently rocking forward. Any parts that feel like they're sinking down, see if you can lift them up a little bit. Make sure you're not shortening your breath here. You can always come down onto your knees if that becomes too much. Maybe lift your feet just for fun. Wherever you want to be at today. And then we will all make our ways onto our bellies. You can bring your knees down first and then come down, or you can just make your way all the way down all at once. Trying to have every part of your body touch the mat at the same time. Release those toes. Align your hands on the outside of your rib cage. And then with your next inhale, coming into a little baby cobra, pushing your lower belly into the mat. See if you can relax your butt cheeks. Keep taking those long, full inhales and complete exhales. With your next exhale, come back down. Take a breath here. And then with your next inhale, come back up. Maybe into your baby cobra, maybe coming up a little bit higher if that feels okay. Still relaxing your butt cheeks, tops of the feet are pushing into the mat. You want to make sure your quads stay engaged. You know your quads are engaged if your knees are slightly lifted off the ground. Make sure those shoulders are pushing back and down so they're not up here. And then with your next exhale, make your way back down. Take a breath here. And with your inhale, coming up into your third and last round. Maybe coming up a little bit higher, maybe staying exactly where you are. That's perfect. Exhale, come back down. Tuck your toes under. And then we'll make our way back into downward dog. You can get there either by moving through tabletop, or you can take the challenge, push up into your high plank, and then up to your down dog. Alternatively, moving through tabletop, and then all the way up. We will all meet here in down dog for 3 breaths. If you need some rest, you can always come into child's pose. If you're in child's pose, make your way back into your down dog. Inhale, come up high onto your tippy toes. Exhale, bend your knees slightly. And then taking teeny tiny steps, walk your feet all the way to the front. Coming up onto your fingertips at the end if needed. Inhale, coming halfway up into your grasshopper variation with your elbows pointing up. Exhale, come back down. Inhale, come all the way up. Raise your arms over your head. Exhale, swan dive down. Inhale, half lift, grasshopper arms. Exhale, come back down. Step your left foot to the back of the mat. Again, maybe taking a couple steps or just sliding it back here with your back foot on the mat. Sinking deep into that right knee. Left hip is dropping down so you can really feel that opening. And let your gaze go up, lift your chest up slightly. And then start squeezing your thighs together, engaging your hips, engaging your quads. See if you can gently lift your fingertips up slightly, or just take some pressure off those fingers. Left heel is pushing back, keeping that deep bend in your right knee. There's a lot of stuff going on here. With your next exhale, bring that left knee down, release your back toes. Keep your left hand on the mat. Bring your right thumb into your right hip crease. The fingers are holding on to your butt. And then slowly start twisting to the right. So your belly, chest, and gaze are all facing to the right side. Make sure that left shoulder is pointing down. So you don't want to be pointing out like this, but keep it in, tugged in. And then maybe staying here, or maybe letting that right arm go up towards the sky. Your gaze can follow, but it doesn't have to. And And then if you want to take it all the way, maybe tugging those back toes under and planking that back leg. If you are doing so, make sure you keep that deep bend in your right knee. And you're also keeping that left shoulder tugged in. Slowly bring your left knee back down, bring your right hand back down, untuck your back toes. And then again, by engaging your core, engaging your legs, start rolling your upper body all the way up. Arms come up last. Right hip is pushing back slightly. You're trying to keep that right knee above your right ankle. Holding that big beach ball over your head. Exhale, slowly come back down. Start straightening your right leg, pushing your hips back. Slowly coming onto your right heel, so you're flexing your right foot. Then again, see if you can maybe maintain a little bend in that right knee, even if you normally straighten it. Use your inhale to look up. Exhale to melt down towards your leg. Inhale, look up. Exhale, melt. Inhale one more time, look up. Exhale, melt. Letting yourself melt down completely. Really bending your elbows softly. Hands are resting on the mat. Back of your neck is nice and long. Inhale, bend your right knee. Sink deep with your hips. And then again, keep that left hand on the mat. Bring your right thumb to your right hip crease. Sink deep into it. Start twisting to the right with your exhale. Maybe letting your right arm go up towards the sky. Tuck your back toes under. Lift your left knee just for a moment. And then bring it back down. Maybe bending your back knee. Trying to reach your left foot with your right hand. If you can't reach it, just reach towards it. If you're holding onto it, start pulling that foot in towards your butt. Sinking deep into your hips here. So you're really dropping your hips down towards the ground. Your right knee can pop out to the side. Make sure your left shoulder is pushing down. And then slowly release whatever you're holding onto. Bring both hands back down, framing your right foot. Plank your back leg, and then step your right foot to the back of the mat, coming into your high plank one more time. Again, you can always come down into a little supported plank with your feet up or your feet down. I'm gonna be here for 5 more breaths. And then with your next exhale, let your hips go up towards the sky, moving into a down dog. Pushing both heels down towards the ground. I'm gonna be here for 3 breaths. And then keep pushing your left heel down. Lift your right leg up high towards the sky, keeping your right hip facing down, pointing your right toes, and then gently turn your toes towards the right. So you're opening up your hips. You can even stack your hips here, really feel how that feels compared to keeping your hip down. And then slowly bring your hip back down. So you're leveling it back to the ground. Keeping your right foot lifted. With your next inhale, bring that right foot all the way through in between your hands. Bring your left foot down at an angle about 45 degrees to the left side of the mat. We're getting ready for Warrior One. Make sure both hips are facing forward, a little bend in your right knee. And then again, squeezing your thighs inwards. Create that power in your legs and your hips. And let that be the force that lets your upper body slowly roll up. Your arms come up last. Maybe you're bringing your arms over your head. Maybe you're bringing your hands down to heart center. Wherever you are, just be there fully. Sinking deep into that right knee. Make sure that left foot is grounded into the mat. And then if your hands are over your head, slowly bring them down to heart center. With your exhale, straighten your front leg. Inhale, lengthen your upper body. And with your exhale, come halfway down. Pausing at this halfway point. You're pausing your movement, but you're not pausing your breath. Pushing both feet into the ground, all four corners of each foot. And then slowly come all the way down into your pyramid pose. Maybe keeping your hands at heart center or letting your hands come down to the ground. That way, bending your elbows, helping you to come down further. Really pulling yourself down. Your belly and chest are leading. Your head just gently follows. Making sure your left hip is pushing forward slightly. Your shoulders are relaxing outwards. And then gently bend your right knee. Bring your hands back to heart center if they're on the ground. Lift your left heel. And then we will transition into an airplane pose or Warrior Three. You can just push yourself forward and then lift that back leg up. Facing down to the mat. Keep lifting that left leg up. Make sure that left hip is still pointing down the way we were practicing earlier. And then maybe letting your gaze and your sternum point to the front. See if you can lift that back leg up a little bit higher. And then slowly bend your right knee and bring that left foot back to the back of the mat. Bringing your hands down, pushing your palms into the mat. Lift your right foot and bring it all the way back up into your three-legged dog. Pushing your left heel down, bend your right knee, stack your hips. So your right knee is pointing up towards the sky. Your right foot is dangling down towards your butt. Right shoulder is pushing down, so you're not creating any kind of imbalance in your shoulders. And then slowly bring that right foot back down, pushing your right heel down. Lift your left leg up high towards the sky, pointing your left toes, keeping your hip level, your left hip. And then gently turn your left toes towards 9 o'clock. So you're opening up your hip towards the left, pushing down with your left shoulder. So you don't want to open up here. And then slowly turn your toes back down to 6 o'clock. That right heel is still pushing down into the mat. And then bring that left foot all the way through in between your hands. It's okay to take a couple steps here. Bring that right foot down at an angle about 45 degrees. Both hips are facing forward. A little bend in your left knee. Start creating that strength in your hips and your legs again. So you're squeezing both thighs towards the midline, helping you to start rolling your upper body all the way up. Your arms come up last. And maybe over your head, maybe at heart center. Keeping that deep bend in your left knee. You can see if you can find a little bit more depth here. Check onto that back foot. Make sure all 4 corners of that back foot are pushing down. Belly button is moving inwards. And then if your arms are over your head, slowly bring them to heart center. With your inhale, straighten your front leg. Exhale, lengthen your upper body. And then with your inhale, come halfway down. Again, pausing when you get to that midpoint, pausing your movement, but not pausing your breath. Exhale, come all the way down into your pyramid pose, choosing your variation here. I recommend doing the same thing you did on the other side. Just letting yourself sink down and melt into this. Leading with the belly and the chest. Head is hanging down heavy wherever you are. And gently bend your left knee, bring your hands back to heart center if they're not there. Lift that right heel, and then again start rocking forward, start lifting that back leg, making your way into your warrior 3. Keeping that right hip level to the ground. Lifting your back foot up as high as you can. And then maybe letting your sternum and your chest face to the wall in front of you. It's okay if you fall out of this, just make your way back into it nice and slow. There's no better way to learn balance poses than by losing balance. The repetitive movement that teaches the body. Gently bend your left knee, bring that back foot back to the back of the mat. Bring both hands down, planting them into the ground. Lift your left foot And bring it all the way up towards the sky. Bending your left knee. Stack your hips here. Left knee is pointing up towards the sky. Make sure that left shoulder is pushing down a little bit more to balance out your lifted leg. And then bring that left foot back down. Bring both knees down to the ground. I'm going to do one more hip opener before we move into some forward folds. So if you have a rug that you're on, you can just stay on here. If you have a wooden floor, anything hard, and you have fragile knees, I recommend folding your mat over so you have more cushioning for your knees. So do what you need to do. You can also put a blanket on the mat if you have a blanket close by. We're going to start out on our toes, bringing the toes as close together as possible. Your heels are lifted. And then just bring those knees out as far as you can to the sides. Bring your knees down to the mat. This is where the cushioning comes in. And then slowly walk your hands forward. And then let your right foot come out. And then let your left foot come out. So the idea is to have the ankles further out than your knees. You're going to come down onto your forearms. This might be pretty intense, so be gentle and be patient. What we're going to do from this point on, we're going to push the hips gently back. So you're just gently rocking your hips back. If your body adjusts, and it most likely will, you can intensify this by bringing your feet out even further. Gaze goes down to the ground gently. We always want to keep the head and the spine nicely aligned, remembering that the head is the extension of the spine at the end. That's why it's important to create that straight line and that alignment. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Maybe find a little bit more depth by rocking back a little bit more. And then from here, we will first bring the feet back in. Then make your way back onto your hands, all the way back up onto your toes, lifting those knees. And then sit down on the mat, extending your legs out in front of you. If you know that you struggle with forward folds, this is a good moment to use your pillow or blanket and sit on it in your forward fold, as it will give you a little bit more leverage when you're leaning forward. So if you want to use that, go ahead, sit down on it. And then bring your hands to heart center, push both legs into the ground, flexing your feet so your toes are pointing towards your head. And then with your inhale, guide your hands behind your head and then all the way up towards the sky. And with your exhale, start reaching forward and down. So you're not just going down, you're also continuously lengthening. And maybe holding onto your shins, ankles, or feet, wherever you land. Letting the belly hang down. Letting your gaze go down in between your legs. So the crown of your head is facing forward. And you can bend your elbows here to help you come down a little bit further. With your exhale, slowly come all the way up, bringing your feet in with you. And I come into a little bound angle pose. So don't bring your feet in too close. You want kind of a diamond shape in between your legs. And then bring your hands to your ankles and just gently let your knees move up and down into a little butterfly. And then coming into stillness, start walking your hands out in front of you, leading with your belly, letting that gaze go forward. And when you reach your lowest point, maybe letting that head hang down. Maybe your head is resting in your feet like a little pillow. So hopefully your feet are not stinky. And then with your exhale, slide all the way back up. Hold onto your ankles and bring those feet in closer. Bringing them in as close as works for you today. Knees are pushing down. Interlace your fingers and then cup your toes with your fingers. A little holding space. And then lengthen your upper body with your inhale. And with your exhale, start leaning forward. You can guide your forearms to be in front of your legs. It can help you to come down further. And you're leading with your belly and chest. Don't just let your head drop down. And then slowly come out of this. Bring your feet up in front of you, feet about mat width apart. And then just let your knees fall from one side to the other, little windshield wipers. And then making your way back to the middle, lying down on the mat. Hug your right knee in, extend your left leg out, hug that right knee in tightly. And then extend your right arm out to the right. And then guide your right leg all the way over to the left, coming into a reclined spinal twist. Your gaze can keep going up or maybe over to the right. Check in onto your right shoulder. Make sure that right shoulder is glued to the ground. If that's not happening, see if you can lift your right leg up a little bit to create some more space for your shoulder. And then slowly come back to center. Bring your left leg in, extend your right leg out, hugging that left leg in tightly, really squeeze it in. And then extend your left arm out to the left and guide that left leg all the way over to the right. Maybe letting your gaze go over to the left. Check on that left shoulder, making sure it's glued down. And then make your way back to center. Hug both legs in tightly. And then extend one leg out. Extend the other leg out. Letting your arms rest on your sides. Creating some space for your armpits to breathe. Palms are facing up. If your eyes are not closed yet, gently close your eyes. Moving into our final and most important pose, moving into Shavasana. Let yourself feel and think whatever it is that's there without any judgment, without any action. And then gently start wiggling your fingers and your toes. Let the movement spread out into your arms and your legs. Bring your legs together, bring your arms over your head on the ground, giving yourself a big stretch like you just woke up. And then let go of your stretch, bring your knees into your chest, hug them in tightly, giving yourself the biggest, most loving hug you can come up with. And then slowly let go of your knees and roll onto your right side into a little fetal position, bringing your head onto your right hand. Your left hand is just supporting you, pulling your knees in as close towards your belly and chest as possible. And then with your eyes still closed, from here, make your way back into a seated position. Going nice and slow, bringing your hands back to heart center, feeling the thumbs on your sternum or your heart space, maybe skin on skin, maybe through your shirt, feeling the warmth of your body, feeling the heartbeat. Drop your head down towards your hands. Bring the chin towards your chest. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be kind. Namaste. Thanks for joining me on this Monday. If you have any questions, as usual,